prepared for something new. Everyone is different. So are you. Stay straight. No masquerades. Do things that you'll remember. You can push too far, but stay fair. Stay on track. Give it your all. Get to the bottom of things. Decide what's right. Don't believe in what the others do. Find it out for yourself. Be close to it all. Bring your heart along. Follow your goals. Reach for the stars. Turn the weekend into the loudest party of your life. Are you prepared?
Jetzt ist es also endgültig vorbei mit den Hinterbergheiten, mit den Versteckspielen. Jetzt wird es tatsächlich, mal so flapsig zu sagen, die Hosen heruntergelassen. Herzlich willkommen, liebe Rennsportfans, hier am Lausitzring am Eurospeedway zum ersten Qualifying von zwei an diesem Wochenende der DTM. Die Formel 1 des Doppelwagensports macht es also jetzt erst einmal eine Runde Eurospeedway Lausitzring. Da sind wir und das war bestimmt alle schon auf unsere Pünktlich zum Beginn des Qualifyings haben sich die Wolken verzogen, die heute Morgen noch nicht über den Lausitzring die Sonne von der Strecke abgeschirmt haben. Das ist der Blick jetzt in die Garage bei Robert Wilkins, schnellster heute Morgen, aber sein Kollege, das war der Travel von Lukas Auer, der Sieger war. Ob er es auch durch die Qualifikation tragen kann, seine Bestzeit des heutigen Trainings. Wir sind gespannt. Mike Rockefeller auch gut dabei, hat sich so ein bisschen freigesprochen zum Auftrag der DTM dieses Jahr in Hockenheim. Sein erster Publikumserfolg gleich am Samstag. Und hier sieht man jetzt die kleinen Spalten vorne noch ab. Wie man sieht, hier einfach die geringste Verwirbelung, die man aber nicht. Zumal ja noch dazu kommt, das Qualifying hier ein guter Startplatz ist am Lausitzring noch einmal etwas wichtiger als anders. Überholen ist hier quasi so ein bisschen schwieriger als auf Strecken wie beispielsweise Hockenheim oder auch beim Spielberg. Nur mal als Beispiel zu nennen, wäre hier gerade noch die Ergebnisse des freien Trainings Nummer 2 über die Bildschirme flimmern sind. Jetzt allerdings kann sein, dass die Rheinbund da noch Möglichkeit hat, gleich ein völlig anderes. Die ersten Punkte werden in der Qualifikation
Championship. For those of you that perhaps didn't follow the action at Hockenheim, there's lots of changes. One of the key changes is that there are less drivers. There are 18 drivers, the three manufacturers, Audi, BMW and Mercedes, having 6 drivers each, but the quality is absolutely huge, Alex, because there's only 3 drivers on the grid that haven't won a DTM race. Most of them are proven race winners.
Yeah, we have a pretty experienced DTM grid this year. Only one newcomer, which is Maro Engel, and one rookie, which is Rick Duval. All of the other drivers have many years of experience in DTM, and this showed. We can see when we see lap times or the lap times from a qualifying, we see how close they are together, and it's also beautiful for the fans to see all those experienced drivers challenge together.
But a slight increase in horsepower this year, 500 plus brake horsepower on these V8 DTM cars, and a new compound of tyre as well from Hankook, which is a softer tyre. It's a grippier tyre, but it's going to wear away more quickly than last year's compound tyre, so they're going to have to be careful in the races.
Yeah, exactly. It's a new compound. We already saw in Hockenheim many drivers struggling to get this tire along the race. It's a really quick tire in qualifying, really soft, but it degrades. It produce a lot of graining along during the race and during the laps, and we saw, like I said, many drivers struggling with this. But it's also beautiful because it brings more action into the race. You need to drive fast, you need to take off your tires. It's a lot more challenging for the strategy and for the teams.
Yeah, with the I spoke to some of the drivers yesterday, Gary Paffett and Jamie Green and Timo Glock from each of the three manufacturers, and they were very pleased with the tyre. They actually like the fact that they have more input now as a driver. Jamie Green said last year's tyre was kind of a safe tyre. You could use it all the way through the race. And now, of course, the changes in the pit stop rules mean that there's still a mandatory pit stop. It's in both races now, so the race durations are both 55 minutes plus 1 lap, whereas last year we had a shorter Saturday race at 40 minutes, a sprint race, and then the second race, the 60-minute race on Sunday, had a mandatory pit stop. But it had a pit stop window, but now they can pit whenever they like, and they're really going to have to think about those pit stops, aren't they? Because you can come in when you like, but as Jamie Green said, last year's tyre was a bit safe. This year it was more interesting because you have to really think about those strategies and think about making that tyre last as long as possible before you change. Yeah,
we saw many different strategies during Hockenheim. Many drivers, for example, now we have Rockenfeller in screen. He pitted really early and it worked out for him really good. He came from P16 to P3 in the race, and also other drivers like Lucas Auer, he was leading the race, he pit really late, but then he struggled to get those tires in. And also one point we didn't mention is those tires, the tire heaters, these tire warmers we used to see, they are not allowed anymore. So the drivers, when they go out in the track, even on the race, they go with cold tires. So they need always a few laps, a few corners to get those tires in. And this is really hard as a driver. And we already saw drivers coming out of the pit in front of others, but losing their position in the next 2-3 corners because the tires were cold. And it was like driving on ice. They have no grip at all.
And really stripped things back, haven't they, in some senses? Another thing that's changed in that respect is the radios. The pit to driver radios have been banned, apart from in safety circumstances where they have to give safety information to the drivers. So going back to relying on pit boards. So trying to strip it back to some extent to basics. Always thinking about the show and the fans, and great innovations this year. They've got a couple of the garages which are open. They've become pit lane viewing areas for the spectators. There's also a fan terrace here. It's not open during the race, but it overlooks right over the top of the end of the pit lane. So the fans getting really, really close to the DTM action. So there is Jamie Green. And Jamie will be looking for his first pole of the year. The first round at Hockenheim, it was Lucas Auer who got pole position in the first qualifying session for Mercedes, and the BMW of Timo Glock was fastest in the second qualifying session. And in terms of the point standings coming here into this second event of the season, Lucas Auer with a win and a fourth. 40 points is the championship leader for Mercedes AMG, for Motorsports BWT team. There was a win as well for Jamie Green. But 26 points for him and only 18th. Gary Paffett had a good weekend. Good to see the 2005 champion back in action at the front of the field. He had a turbulent couple of years, but second place and a 7th means he's third in the championship on 26 points. And Timo Glock is the best of the BMW drivers in the points with the 2nd and a 5th. So they can see coming in for a test pit stop. And this is something else that has had a big change for the year, Alex, in terms of the speed of the pit stops and how many people are allowed to work on the cars.
Yeah, we have this year a new pit stop rule, which means you can only have 2 mechanics per side of the car. So they have to change first the front tires or the rear tires or the other way around. And this making also the pit stop longer. And we also say many mistakes during the race in Hockenheim. So this is bringing even more action to the race.
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot more for the drivers and the teams to think about in terms of the impact that they have on the strategies and the overall impact upon the race. So that's the scenario then coming into this weekend. Qualifying is, of course, always important, but it's not the be-all and end-all, because we saw several great drives through the field at Hockenheim, proving that you don't have to be right at the front.
Yeah, like you said, we saw many drivers who were starting even in the back and coming to the front and even achieving podium position, but we must not forget that this year the qualifying is also important in terms of points, because if you do pole you get 3 points, if you get second position you get 2 points, and if you do P3 you get 1 point. And I'm sure that towards the end of the year we will see some difference in those drivers which been always battling and challenging from the front rows and getting those extra little points against the driver who have been maybe being on the podium or making good result, but they've been always starting more in the middle or in the back of the grid. So I think this will play a big role towards the end of the season.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, the points that you mentioned coming in. Well, already Lucas Auer has scored 3 extra championship points for his qualifying performances. Timo Glock likewise. If you keep doing that at every round, it's going to add up to a couple of wins worth of extra points if you keep doing that. Just running a little bit wide there. One of the newcomers, Luc Duval, very, very experienced GT and sports car racer, but coming into DTM. And Gary Paffett, the 2005 champion. Now, Gary said this isn't one of his favourite circuits, but he has gone well. He's had 3 wins here. And the thing that everybody's talking about is the fact that he's won every 4 years. His wins came in 2005, the year he took the championship, 2009, and then he won again in 2013. And that was 4 years ago. So maybe it's written in the stars, because also tomorrow it's going to be Gary Paffett's 100, or later today rather, it's going to be his 150th race. He's gone quickest in the session in the early stages, but not for long, because Timo Glock pips him with a 1 minute 16.779. So Paffett briefly was at the top of the times, but he's now second with a 1 minute 16.9, just under 0.2 of a second between them. Lucas Auer has got into the mix as well on his first proper lap with a 1 minute 16.8. He goes second, so it's Glock in the BMW, and then it's the 2 Mercedes of Auer and Paffett. Robert Wickens is currently 4th with a 1:17.0, and a replay there, a slow-mo of Mike Rockenfeller. It's flying off the car. Didn't look too healthy. So Robert Wickens has had a very good first sector. There he is with his new livery for the year in the Mercedes, the Canadian driver. Purple in sector 2 as well. That means it's the quickest of the three sectors on the lap, and if it goes purple, you've gone quicker in that sector than anybody else. He's done that in sector 1 and sector 2. So he ought to be going to the top of the times if he can hold it together in this third and final sector. There you can see the time he's trying to beat on screen, 1 minute 16.779. Coming out now onto the banking and flat out. What can he achieve here? It's going to be a good lap, this, and should get him to the top of the times. It does, 1 minute 16.527. Gary Paffett improves as well, the 1:16.740. Timo Glock now 3rd. Mike Rockenfeller has gone into 4th place. Lucas Auer down to 5th. And it's changing all the time.
Very similar to how it was in practice. If we could do something for traction, I would take it. Warm up, I would like some more if we could do it. The rears went away on the last lap by traction.
Just getting some feedback on the team radio there from Robert Wickens. And Alex, one thing he's mentioning a lot there, the word he keeps mentioning is traction and the rear tyres. This circuit, you've driven it, it is all about getting out of those slow-speed corners, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a racetrack where braking and traction are really important. I mean, in every racetrack are important, but here you have really small, tight corners, and this means you have to be good on the brakes and the engine, really good on the power. You need to use really this traction out of this car and this 500+ horsepower to get out, to roll, and to get to win more time. So we saw Robert Wickens complain a bit about traction. They will for sure do something on the car to improve.
It's quite bumpy as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a really bumpy racetrack. Also, we have all those. They have a lot of runoff areas, so we already saw some drivers making the track wider as it is. So yeah, it's a really challenging racetrack. It's old style, green, and we already saw Nico Müller already on the edge. It's a racetrack, like we say. It's also really important to look for the edges, to go from the left to the right, use the hole, because also it's not a really wide track, except here on the main straight it's really wide, but in the inside of this inside part of the track is quite narrow, so you need to really use to make the track wide.
That's right, so this is going to be a personal best lap for Nico Müller. I'm not sure it's going to put him in the top 3, but it's going to certainly move him up the rankings. Nico goes across the line. René Rast is going well also. Müller goes 5th quickest with that, 1 minute 16.732. There's nothing between Rockenfeller in 3rd, Wittmann in 4th, and then Müller in 5th. They're split by less than 1/10 of a second as René Rast goes to the top of the times now. Müller and Rast are both going to be in action at the Nürburgring 24 hours next weekend. 1 minute 16.5 then is the new benchmark time, 5:13 to be precise. Auer's done a 1:16.5 as well, 1 minute 16.524, and only 3,000 slower than him with a 1 minute 16.527 is Robert Wickens. So you've got just 14 thousandths of a second covering the top 3 in this qualifying session. Tom Blomqvist has gone 4th quickest now, 1 minute 16.68, and then it's Rockenfeller with a 1:16.7, but all the way down to 9th place, which is Timo Glock. They are all in the 1 minute 16.7.
We stick with 4 timed laps. We stick to that.
So they're getting information on the team radio to Lucas Auer. talking about having a run of 4 timed laps, what they're going for. Already just under 10 minutes of the session to go. Here is Jamie Green then. Again, yesterday saying it's not his favourite circuit, saying he would like to run the longer version of the circuit. He understands why the short version is good for fans and seeing the cars come past more often, but he says as a racing driver, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Alex, you want the quickest corners, you want the biggest challenges, and that's the circuits perhaps later on that I'll be looking forward to a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, we drivers, we like to drive as fast as possible. So fastest corner mean widest corner, then this always we like more than really tight corners. But anyway, the thing is, like I was saying, it's a good challenging race track. We already saw Jamie Green going for the edge. You need to really push the car really on the limit and be really precise, because all those curbs and all those small runoff area AstroTurf, they are not so easy. So it's like I was saying already before, it's an old school track. You need to, it's not like Hockenheim, you have some runoff areas or this new circuit where you can run wide. No, it's really, you need to be really on the edge, really precise on your driving, and do everything constantly so you can get a good lap time.
So Rennie Rast at the end of the first part of qualifying, as they'll come in to reset the cars and go out for another couple of fast laps. Rennie Rast is topping the times in the session. Very, very experienced driver. Did 3 DTM races at the end of last year. Got a best of 6th place so far, so be looking for his first podium.
For the data from Robert, and then we'll go ahead, okay? It's downloading.
So talking about data and downloading and...
Show me quickly where the thing should change to the data part.
Lucas Howe giving some feedback.
Yeah, copy that.
And this is about the teams coming in and looking at data and looking at each other's data within the team as well, just to find out where they can improve compared to their teammate.
Exactly. We as a driver, data for us is really important, especially now in this modern era of motorsport. Data became a really, really part. You can see where is your teammate braking, where is he accelerating, where is he carrying more speed than you, and we can learn from each other. So this is also why we see in the late time all the times are really so close together. We see now from P1 to P10 only 3 tenths. This is also a bit because of this data. It helps you to go more and more precise toward the edge of the car.
We will tell you it on the outlap.
And then we see the engineers, also this communication where we see between driver and engineer. I will tell you on the outlap, engineer check where he can improve and tell you, okay, corner 3, 5, 7, you need to brake a bit later or accelerate earlier. All these kind of tiny details, and it's really help you to improve.
Can you see the data on the iPad?
Yeah, it hugely accelerates how quickly you can improve.
Nobody showed me, as I told 5 times.
Back in the old days, you had a stopwatch and you had to try and work it out across the course of the day where you could improve.
Close the door now. We tell you on the outlap.
So Lucas close, isn't he? He's second, but he's only 11 thousandths of a second slower than Rennie Rast, who's on provisional pole currently. Rennie, double Porsche Super Cup champion, Nürburgring 24-hour race winner as well. Front runner at Le Mans, huge amounts of sports car experience coming perhaps long overdue into DTM, and showing what he can do here with his time. In the first round at Hockenheim, he didn't qualify that well. He was 17th in Q1, and in Q2 he was a little bit better in 10th place. So this is a step forward, and he's going to have to perhaps find even a little bit more time here, because bearing in mind how close Lucas Howe and Robert Wickens are to his time, then you've got Tom Blomqvist, Mike Rockenfeller, Marco Wittmann in 6th place, all within a 10th of a second of him as well. Muller 7th, Paffett 8th, Glock in 9th, and Jamie Green currently in 10th place.
But that's the beautiful thing of the new DTM. We have all 3, also a car of all 3 manufacturers in top 5. We have 2 Mercedes, 2 Audis, and 1 BMW. And this is really nice this year. So we have this mix, and we see all the brands challenging together. Now let's see how it works the second shot for the drivers.
That's right. They're also going to equalise things further after the qualifying session. Of course, we get success ballast, which is based not on fastest times in qualifying, but the fastest theoretical times in qualifying. So that these blocks of success ballast that they add to the different manufacturers, that can make things even closer. And it was borne out by the huge amount of different race winners that we had last year. So far this year, 2 races, 2 different winners, and not one driver at Hockenheim was able to get on the podium more than once. So that shows, and again in the qualifying situations, one day you can be at the front The next day, qualifying 2 tomorrow morning, you can be nowhere, be in the middle of the pack, but that's because it's so close. We've got 1 second covering all 18 drivers out there. Great view on board here with Mike Rockenfeller car, showing the gear changes as well around the circuit. Mike currently in that pack that's just off the top 3. He's 5th, but if he can find a 1/10 of a second, he's going to be challenging for a front row. Rocky only 16th on the grid for the first race at Hockenheim, but then qualified better with a 5th place. But he came from a long way down to get on the podium, from 16th up to 3rd place. Matthias Ekström was another driver who was coming charging through the field from a lowly grid position. But as Alex says, the extra points that come for finishing in the top 3 in each qualifying session, they're really going to add up at the end of the season. So gives them extra incentive to push as hard as they can here in this qualifying session. There is Mike Rockenfeller, Audi Team Phoenix, 5th in the standings after the first weekend at Hockenheim, 5th at the moment in this session. At the moment it's Audi, Mercedes, BMW, the top 4. So as Alex said, they're all represented up near the front. Happy memories of this circuit for BMW as well, when they returned to the DTM 5 years ago in 2012. It was Bruno Spengler who picked up their first win since coming back at this circuit. It was also their 50th win in the DTM. Marco Wittmann also happy memories. This is where he wrapped up his 2014 championship title at this circuit, and it was later on in the calendar. So only 3.5 minutes to go, and this is going to be nail-biting. Is there room for improvement? 1 minute 16.5 is the target time you need to go for if you want to be on the front row of the grid. And most of them are about to go onto their first flying laps now. It's pretty evenly spread, isn't it? As you say, you look down the runners there. There's not one manufacturer that seems to be struggling. They've all got drivers in the front, they've all got drivers in the middle, all at the back. So very evenly matched here at the Lausitzring.
The driver, I'm impressed. I thought he would be more in the front. It looks like he's struggling also in free practice. He struggled to find the pace. Is Eduardo Mortara. He's now P16 in free practice. This morning was last P18. So I'm curious to see if he can manage to put a lap together and run forward to the front. When we see the drivers are already starting to do purple and green sector, so I think the action will start right now, and we will see that the drivers chipping away the lap time and trying to push these last minutes to get a pole lap time. We see Robert Wicken already improving the lap time by 3/10, getting into P1.
Good lap, very good lap, 1 minute 16.298. Gary Paffett now finds himself down in 8th place. Did 1:16.8 there, his best is 1:16.7, so more to come perhaps from the 2005 champion. Robert Wickens definitely with the advantage now of 2.5 tenths of a second. René Rast out of 2nd place, Lucas Auer 3rd. Lucas was one of the drivers that got pole position here at this circuit last year. Miguel Molina, no longer with the championship, was the driver that got pole position in the other qualifying session. Torrid weekend at Hockenheim for Augusto Farfus, one of the most likeable and quickest drivers in the field, but this is looking too bad. 10th place so far, 1:16.8. Personal bests in sectors 2 and 3 for him. All again in search of these extra points, 3 extra points towards the championship if you can snatch pole position. Come what may at the end of this, Lucas Auer is going to be the points leader because he's got 14 more than the next best driver. He's got 40, Jamie Green's got 26, so too has Gary Paffett. Very good first sector for Lucas Auer. It's gone purple, 19.096, that's a 10th quicker. A 10.5 quicker really than most people are managing. Timo Glock is on a decent lap as well, and Gary Paffett has just improved up to 2nd place, 1 minute 16.510. He's 3,000ths quicker than René Rast, who's down to 3rd. Lucas Auer is 4th, but on a very quick lap here. And Timo Glock goes 2nd as he crosses the line. Lucas Auer, though, very, very good middle sector and final sector, and goes quickest, 1 minute 16.193. It's going to keep changing, though, you suspect. We're into the final minute of the session here. It's Auer, 1:16.193, on for pole position currently. There he is. Robert Wickens, 1:16.298. Mercedes 1-2. René Rast for Audi, 1 minute 16.420. He's 4,000ths quicker than Timo Glock. And then you've got Tom Blomqvist and Mike Rockenfeller rounding out the top 6. Paffett was in the top 2 about a minute ago. He's suddenly down to 7th place. That's how quickly it's changing. Mortara has improved up to 8th position. Wittmann and Green rounding out the top 10 currently. We haven't talked much of, or seen much of Matthias Ekström, but former double champion is going to improve here. Where will it see him? Should see him well up into the top 10 this, I reckon. Eki goes through, crosses the line, and Rene Rast on a decent lap as well. Ekstrom didn't actually improve, struggled in that final sector. And personal best in the first two, but he's still there in 12th place. Needed another 1/10 of a second. That would have got him up 2 or 3 positions. Rene Rast, nothing special in the second sector. It was a personal best in the longer first sector. He's currently third. And Maxime Martin from nowhere in the BMW has gone third quickest. 1 minute 16.404. Timo Glock in the pits. It's going to be 5th place at best for him. He ends his session. The checkered flag is out. Rene Rast goes through. No improvement. Tom Blomqvist, what can he do? He's 6th currently. The BMW driver, the British driver, personal best in the first 2 sectors, but can't quite kill it in that final sector. So he stays in 6th place. There is Jamie Green, who's going to be very disappointed, I would imagine, with 11th place, which is where he is in the Audi. Bearing in mind he's 2nd in the championship. Nico Muller still out there. Could he get into the top 10? Personal best in the first 2 sectors, but you've got to really get this final sector correct. Through turns 10 and 11 and 12, quite tight, fiddly, quite slow corners, getting out there onto the banking now, and just a drag race to the line. What can Nico do? I don't think he's going to be challenging right at the front. 1:16.1 is the time to be, 1:16.4. Good improvement though, he goes from 12th up to 7th right at the end of the session.
Rubbing the wall, yeah, a little bit there.
Ooh. We saw Paul di Resta getting very close to it earlier on. I think there was actually contact there though, wasn't there? You've got to do it though, haven't you, to get the lap? Yeah,
you need to really look for the limit. But I think at the moment you rub a bit the wall, it takes some speed out of you in the acceleration. So you need to try to be as close as possible, but don't rub it too much, because then this friction between the car and the wall, this will take some speed out.
Not good for the paintwork either. So Lucas Auer is pole position, 1 minute 16.193 seconds, just over a 10th clear of Robert Wickens in 2nd place. Maxime Martin was really nowhere in the session, and then suddenly, with seconds remaining, he pops up there in 3rd place with a 1:16.404. There you can see the times on the screen. You can see how close it was as well. Maxime Martin, 16 thousandths quicker than Rene Rast, who's got his best qualifying so far in 4th place. Timo Glock was only 4 thousandths slower than Rast in 5th place with a 1:16.424. There were 1:16.4s for Blomqvist and Muller as well in 6th and 7th place. And then 1:16.5 for Rockenfeller in 8th, Paffett in 9th, Mortara in 10th, and Marco Wittmann in 11th place. Jamie Green was 12th, Ekstrom 13th. In the session, Maro Engel in 14th. For Farfus dropped to 15th place in the end. Duval, the newcomer, in 16th. Di Resta down in 17th place. And Bruno Spengler right at the back. Hardly saw him in that session, did we? Right at the back with a 1:17.097. And again, it's 9/10 of a second away from the pole time, but it's enough to put him in last place. Incredible.
So 2nd pole of the season for Lucas Auer. 2nd time he get those 3 points for being on the front of the pack. Nice job by Lucas. Now we'll see on the racing. This is nice, because you have Mercedes, BMW, Audi, BMW. It's so nice. You have all the 3 brands in the top 5.
And that's actually the first point of the season for Maxime Martin as well, because he didn't pick up any points in the weekend at Hockenheim. That's his first championship point for 3rd place in the qualifying session. So an excellent performance once again by Lucas Auer. He really has become the part, hasn't he? He's become the rounded DTM driver over this last season or so. Great result here last year as well, the pole and the maiden victory. That is his 5th career pole position. So here are your top 3. Maxime Martin for BMW, that late surge, 1 minute 16.404 seconds, just pipping the likes of Rast, Glock and Blomqvist by a few hundredths of a second. So a BMW breaks into the top 3. 2nd place for Robert Wickens, the Canadian driver for Mercedes, 1:16.298. He was in the mix all the way through the session. And he was quick in both the free practices as well. So it looks good for a solid weekend for Rob. 3rd in free practice 1, 2nd in free practice 2, and in 2nd place in qualifying. But there is the man, Lucas Auer, his 5th DTM career pole position driver, having come up through single-seaters, through European Formula 3 racing, now finding a home in DTM. The Austrian driver, pole with a 1:16.193. So it is set for a very exciting race this afternoon. It's the usual format with 2 qualifying sessions, two separate grids for what's now two 55-minute races plus one lap. And there is Luca Sauer, looking calm and collected. He was desperate to get that bit of information from the team on the performance and where he could improve before he went out, and that's what he did. So here is the starting grid for the first race of the weekend. Luca Sauer and Robert Wickens will be on the front row, and all Mercedes front row. Maxime Martin for BMW, and the top Audi is René Rast, easily his best qualifying so far this season. Timo Glock, who went very well at Hockenheim, and Tom Blomqvist are on row 3. On the fourth row of the grid, Nico Muller, who improved late on. He was 12th, he went up to 7th right at the end. Mike Rockenfeller, solid again, back to good form for Rocky. That's the fourth row. The fifth row, Gary Paffett and Eduardo Mortara. Now with Mercedes this year, of course, Marco Wittmann, reigning champion, and Jamie Green out for his first title. Can he do it this year? They are, though, back on the sixth row. Matthias Ekstrom and Maro Engel are next up on row 7. On row 8, we've got Augusto Farfus and Luc Duval, the Frenchman. And the final row of the grid, starting 17th and 18th, Paul de Resta and Bruno Spengler, two former champions, right at the back of the grid. And therefore, Alex, I think we can expect not just to watch some exciting racing at the front, but some quick drivers coming through from the back of the field.
Exactly, like we were talking, we might see some drivers who are even starting on the back, being able to come to the front row's position and even battling for podium. So we will expect a really interesting and really challenging race this afternoon. If the weather stays like this, which I think the sun is coming stronger and stronger, so we'll have a dry race. So we will also see this degradation on the tires, this tactic we were talking before. So really looking forward to see the race this afternoon, and also see all the three brands challenging again together, battling against together, and see how they deal with the first corner, which is here pretty tight in Lausitzring.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it's going to be breathe in, squeeze through that first corner, but there'll be those drivers at the back really trying to charge through and gain as many early places as they can. It's going to be a fascinating race. It wouldn't bet against there being a third different race winner of the season when we have our first race of the weekend later on today. So fantastic qualifying session, separated once again by just thousandths of a second, but Luca Sauer, carrying good form from last season, is up there at the top of the championship standings, and he's at the top of qualifying. Another 3 points, another pole position for the young Austrian driver, but he's still got a lot of work to do, of course, in the session to come this afternoon to make it work. 55 minutes with a mandatory pit stop and all these new rules and strategies to think about, the new tyre to look after as well. It's going to be fantastic. So that wraps up qualifying from Alex Tyrrell and me, Chris Hartley. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you again for the race this afternoon. Bye for now.